Show y'all niggas how to play the best poker you can play, man. Without these fucking cards cheating or this goddamn internet cheating you. Hit the like button for this game, man. Shout out to the boss Mac, man. You know what I mean? Let's get it, man. Ooh. I ain't in the mood to play this trash right now. Let me see. Man, I ain't in the mood to play this trash right now. Y'all see me get busy with it though. You know what I mean? Hit the like button for this game I'm about to display, man. We just got these chips we could wait. We go wait just for that, right? See what these flops are looking like though. Trash. Trash can. Trash can hand. Look at that flop though. Look at these wild flops though, man. Let me see. Look at that craziness, man. Craziness right there. See the river. I hate to have to fold this two pair. I hate to have to fold that right now. You see? I will fold it though. Jack 6K be good right here. Guess it is. Get out the way. 8 on the turn. I bet you it could. 8 on the turn. wanna rock with you all night, dance the night away, sunshine. This the type of floss they give me. This nigga behind me, bro. Okay. 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 All right, man. Let me see what's going on in these YouTube streets, man. See what's going on in these YouTube streets. Tank tripping.
Think you're always right.
I got caught up doing something. Yeah, shit. Hmm? Wasn't looking.
single day in a state of deep mental focus, visualizing his spine rebuilding itself, rebuilding the architecture of his body through nothing but thought. In 12 weeks, he walked out of that hospital. No surgery, no medical intervention beyond pain management, just the mind. Just intention directed with such precision and such belief that it rewired his biology. That man is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm going to tell you today why that story has everything to do with poker. Not metaphorically, not loosely, directly, mechanically, and profoundly. Because what Joe Dispenza proved in that hospital bed is the same thing that separates a player who grinds their whole life at the same stakes from a player who builds a career, a reputation, and a bankroll that keeps growing. The difference is not the cards they get. It is not the software they use. It is not even the hours they study. The difference is what happens in the 6 inches between their ears when the pressure is real, when the stack is at risk, and when the mind decides whether to rise or collapse. This is Mind of a Grinder, and this is the most important video we have ever made. Here's before we talk about poker, we need to talk about your brain. Not in a vague motivational way, in a precise scientific way, because Joe Dispenza's work is not philosophy. It is neuroscience applied to the most practical question a human being can ask. Can I change who I am? The answer is yes. But understanding why requires understanding something called neuroplasticity. Your brain is not fixed. It is not hardwired at birth and locked in place forever. Every single thought you have, every emotion you feel, every experience you repeat, leaves a physical mark on the structure of your brain. Neural pathways are formed through repetition. The more you think a certain thought, the more you feel a certain emotion, the more you run a certain path, the stronger and more automatic that pathway becomes. This is why habits feel automatic. This is why tilt feels inevitable. This is why some players seem to make the same catastrophic mistake in the same type of spot every single time, even when they know better. They know better intellectually, but their brain has a highway built toward that mistake. Every time they drove down that road and chose the emotional reaction over the rational response, the road got a little wider, a little faster, a little more automatic. And now, when the trigger arrives, they don't even make a decision. The brain just drives. The hand is already bet before the thought is complete. Dispenza calls this the habit of being yourself. People believe they have a personality, a character, a way of being. What they actually have is a collection of automated neural pathways that they mistake for identity. The player who tilts is not a tilter. They are someone who has practiced tilting so many times that it has become their brain's default response to a specific stimulus. And here is the first thing that should hit you hard today. If tilting is a trained behavior, it can be untrained. If emotional collapse under pressure is a neural habit, it can be reprogrammed. You are not doomed to make the same mistakes forever. You are not just the player you have been. You are the player you are willing to become, provided you understand the mechanism and do the actual work to change it. Let me tell you about a hand, not a famous hand from a televised event. A hand that happens at every table in every card room in every city, every single night. A player raises pre-flop with pocket kings. He bets from a tight player who has barely played a hand in the last 2 hours. He calls. The flop comes ace high. His opponent bets. He calls. The turn is a blank. His opponent bets large. He calls again. The river is another blank. His opponent moves all in. Now pause here. Let me tell you what is happening in his brain in this moment. His amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for threat detection and emotional response, has been activated. His cortisol and adrenaline levels are rising. His body is entering a mild fight or flight state. Blood is being redirected from the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational decision-making part of the brain, toward the older, more reactive systems. He is, in a very literal neurological sense, becoming less intelligent in real time. His prefrontal cortex knows the right answer. A tight player who has not played a hand in 2 hours, who 3-bet pre-flop and is now betting all 3 streets on an ace-high board, almost certainly has an ace, maybe aces. The math is clear. The read is clear. Folding pocket kings facing a pre-flop 3-bet on an ace-high run against this player profile is not just defensible.
Road trip with the group chat? Need a spot to refuel and recharge. Muchos se
It is correct, but his amygdala is screaming. He invested chips in this pot. He has kings, second best starting hand in the game. He cannot lose to that. He cannot be bluffed. He cannot be shown up. And so he calls. He sees aces. He loses a massive pot. And here is what is tragic. He already knew. Before he called, somewhere in the rational part of his mind, he already knew. But the emotional brain had control of the wheel, and the rational brain was watching helplessly from the back seat. Joe Dispenza says that most people live in a constant state where the body is running the mind, and the mind running the body. The emotional reactions of the body, conditioned through years of repeated experience, override the intelligent signals coming from the conscious rational mind. In poker, this dynamic is not occasional. It is constant, and it costs players more money than any single strategic league ever could. Now let us talk about what the elite actually do differently, because this is where Dispenza's work becomes genuinely revolutionary for a poker player who is serious about their development. Joe Dispenza teaches something he calls the coherent state. It is a state in which the brain and heart are synchronized, in which the nervous system is calm, in which the emotional body is not reacting to the environment, but being directed by the mind. In this state, the prefrontal cortex is fully online. Pattern recognition is sharp. Emotional regulation is strong. Decision-making is clear. The elite poker players in the world, whether they use this language or not, have developed some version of this state as a practice. They walk to the table with a mental routine. They sit with intention. They breathe deliberately before major decisions. They have trained themselves to return to baseline quickly after emotional triggers. They are not playing poker in a reactive state. They are playing in a chosen state. This is not mysticism. This is biology. When you breathe slowly and deliberately, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate drops. Your cortisol levels decrease. Blood returns to the prefrontal cortex. Your rational mind regains control of the wheel. A single intentional breath before a major decision is not a relaxation technique. It is a neurological intervention that literally changes the quality of the thought you are about to have. Think about what this means for your game. Every time you are about to make a large call, a big bluff, or a river fold that costs you ego, you have a choice. Let your body run the decision, driven by the emotions that have been conditioned through years of losing pots and protecting your image. Or you can pause, breathe, return to a state where your best thinking is available to you, and then decide. The players who consistently make high-quality decisions in high-pressure spots are not smarter than you. They are calmer than you. And calm, at the neurological level, is a skill you can develop. Here is where I need to introduce you to the concept that Dispenza calls breaking the habit of being yourself. And I want to be direct about this is the most confrontational idea in this entire video for a poker player. Most players who reach a ceiling in their development, who stay stuck at the same stakes for years, who improve in study but not in results, are not suffering from a lack of information. They are suffering from an identity problem. They have a fixed image of the kind of player they are. That image was built through experience, through results, through what other players said about them, through their own internal narrative about what they are capable of and what they are not. And that image acts as a ceiling, unconsciously, because every time they approach the edge of their comfort zone, every time a spot arises that would require them to be a different, bigger, more confident version of themselves, the identity pulls them back, not through laziness, not through stupidity, through self-protection. The brain defaults to what it knows, to what it has practiced, to what feels like home. This is why Dispenza's message is not just about healing and transformation in a spiritual sense. It is about the neuroscience of identity change. It teaches that if you want to change your life, you have to change yourself before the external world changes. You have to become in thought and feeling the version of yourself who lives that life before the evidence appears. You have to fire the neural connections of that future self through deliberate mental practice until the connections are strong enough to override the old automatic patterns. In poker, this is extraordinarily practical. A player who wants to move up in stakes, who wants to play with more confidence, who wants to stop tilting, not simply tell themselves to be different. They have to practice being different in their mind before they sit down at the table, during meditation, during visualization, during the intentional construction of a mental state that they then bring to the field. This might sound abstract. It is anything but. Every professional athlete uses some version of mental rehearsal. Every elite performer uses visualization.
People don't realize that you can buy small amounts of Bitcoin. You know, the most popular cryptocurrency in the world. Download the Coinbase app and sign up for a free account. Add a payment method, then tap to buy and sell.
The brain, at the neurological level, cannot perfectly distinguish between an event that is vividly imagined and an event that is actually lived. The same neural pathways fire, the same emotional states are generated, the same habits are reinforced or replaced. Spend time before every session mentally rehearsing making calm, correct decisions under pressure. Your brain is literally practicing that. If you visualize folding kings to obvious strength with equanimity instead of rage, you are rehearsing the neural pathway for that response. You are building the road before the car needs to drive it. We are now at the halfway point of this video, and I need to stop for a moment because what I am about to tell you is directly connected to everything we have been discussing. Every concept in this video, the neuroplasticity, the pre-session protocol, the identity work, the emotional regulation under pressure, all of it exists as a complete structured system inside the Mind Rider Complete Poker Bundle. 3 books, 10 pillars of transformation, built specifically for the player who is done being average and is ready to become dangerous. Here is what makes this different from everything else you have seen. Most poker content gives you one idea at a time.
Doing this run out ever. Niggas killing me, man.
You consume, you feel inspired for 2 days, and then nothing changes because inspiration without a system evaporates.
I'm gonna have
The
nothing on
complete
my fucking
bundle is
flop,
not a
bro. Y'all
collection of
niggas gotta be
isolated
kidding,
ideas.
bro.
It is a neural map that takes you from where you are right now to a completely different level of thinking, deciding, and performing at the table. 1 ebook per day. That is the commitment. 10 days. If you read 1 per day with genuine intention, your game will not look the same on day 11. Not because of magic, because 10 consecutive days of deep, targeted mental reprogramming is exactly the kind of sustained repetition that Dispenza says builds new neural pathways. You will not just know more. You will think differently. You will react differently. You will sit at the table as a different player. And here's what you need to know right now. This is the final week of the launch promotion. The complete collection of 10 ebooks, 10 books that will permanently change how you see and play this game, is available for $29.90. That is less than the cost of 1 bad call at a live table. That is less than a single buy-in at most games most of you are playing. For what those 10 ebooks will save you in future mistakes alone, the return on this investment is not 10 to 1. It is not 20 to 1. It is you want abilities into a single outcome. Dispenza uses this as a metaphor, and I want to be precise that it is a metaphor. How the mind interacts with probability and possibility in real life. The way you observe a situation changes how you interact with it, which changes the outcomes that become available to you. In poker, this is not quantum physics, but the principle translates with remarkable precision. The player who sits down believing the table is hostile, that the cards are against them, that variance will hurt them, is not just being pessimistic. They are changing their actual behavior through that belief. They play more defensively. They miss opportunities because their attention is tuned to threat rather than possibility. They fold when they should call because their emotional state is already colored by the expectation of loss. Their belief literally changes what they see and what they do. Conversely, the player who walks to the table in a state of calm confidence, who genuinely believes that their decisions are sound and that the math will be on their side over time, plays differently. They see spots that the threatened player misses. They execute bluffs with the conviction that produces fold equity. They make calls that the fearful player cannot make because confidence is not just a feeling. It is a neurological state that makes the prefrontal cortex function better. This is not about positive thinking in the superficial sense. It is about creating the internal conditions in which your best brain is available to you. It is about choosing your state before you choose your action. A story I have seen play out many times at the tables. A player runs terribly for 3 sessions. Every big hand loses. Every bluff gets snapped. They sit down for the 4th session carrying all of that emotional weight. They are in a state of anticipatory loss. They play tight. They play scared. had a ceiling he could not break. Every time he moved up, he lost confidence. Every time he ran bad, he questioned everything. He would spend weeks playing scared, making minimum risk plays, and watching his win rate deteriorate. Physically confident and mentally trapped. Then he encountered Dispenza's work, not through poker, through a period of serious personal difficulty that had nothing to do with cards. He began meditating daily, not casually, but with the specific intention Dispenza teaches, to generate the emotional state of the person he wanted to become before the evidence existed, not imagining winning. Imagining being the kind of player who made correct decisions with equanimity, regardless of outcome. He did this every morning before studying, every evening before sleeping. He held the emotional state of calm confidence for longer and longer periods until it was no longer an effort but a default. 6 months later, Marco was playing 2 stakes higher than where he had been stuck for years. His study had not dramatically changed. His hours had not dramatically changed. What had changed was that he had stopped being the player he used to be. He had rewired himself. The tilt response that had cost him countless buy-ins had been replaced, not suppressed, but genuinely replaced by a different automatic response. Curiosity instead of rage, analysis instead of blame, patience instead of desperation. He had done exactly what Dispenza did in that hospital bed. He had changed his biology through sustained, intentional mental practice, and his results changed as a consequence. Not because of luck, because a different version of him was making the decisions. Now I want to give you something a pre-session mental protocol that you can start using tonight. It combines what Dispenza teaches about generating elevated emotional states with what the best mental coaches in poker have developed through years of working with professionals. Step 1. Before you sit down to play, take 10 minutes of complete stillness. Not studying, not checking rules. Stillness. Breathe slowly. 5 counts in, 5 counts out. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system and begins to move you out of the low-grade stress state that most people carry as a baseline. Step 2. Set a process intention, not a result intention. Not tonight, I will make $1,000. Tonight, I will make correct decisions based on the information available and accept all outcomes with equanimity. This reframes the brain's measure of success from the result, which you cannot control, to the process, which you entirely control. Step 3. Visualize 3 types of spots that typically challenge you. If you grind after bad beats, visualize a bad beat happening. My hubby stopped ejaculating prematurely. I used to think finishing too early was just something I had to live with. I tried everything. Different positions, mind tricks, even numbing sprays. Every time it... Visualize your response not as you have responded in the past, but as you want to respond. See yourself breathing, reassessing, continuing to play correctly. Your brain is practicing this response. It will be slightly more available to you when the real trigger arrives. Step 4. Generate the emotional state of the player you are becoming before you start. Not the player you have been. The player who is calm, confident, accurate, and patient. Spend 2 minutes holding that emotional state. Feel it in your body. This is not a trick. This is neuroscience. You are priming your brain with the biochemistry of a high-performing state before you need it. This process takes 12 minutes. It will do more for your results than 12 hours of solver work done in a state of anxiety and emotional reactivity. There is a second hand I want to walk through. This one shows the other side. What happens when the mental game is operating at its peak? You are in a tournament. Blinds are significant. You have been card dead for 45 minutes. You have been patient. You have stayed present. You have not let the absence of hands disturb your focus. A player in early position, who has been slightly aggressive but not reckless, opens for 2.5 times. Everyone folds to you in the big blind. You have 7-4 offsuit. In any standard chart, this is a fold. But you have been watching, and you have noticed that this player has opened 3 times in the last 6 hands, always from early or middle position, and that twice they took a small pot by continuation betting uncontested. And because you are in a clear mental state, because your attention has not been scattered by emotional noise, you caught something in their second continuation bet. A slight hesitation before betting. A quality of movement that was different from the first. Small. Easily missed if you were distracted. You 3-bet to 6 times. over a long period of time and receives subtle information from the environment is a direct product of mental state. The player who is guilty, distracted, or emotionally depleted does not see that hesitation. The player who is calm, present, and running in a coherent internal state sees things at the table that others cannot access. This is what Dispenza means when he says that when you change your inner world, the outer world changes, not through magic, through attention, decision quality, and the compound effect of making better choices in more situations over a longer period of time. Warren, before we close, I want to say this one more time because it matters. The Mind of a Grinder Complete Poker Bundle. $29.90. This week
I
only
should
at
bring
this
that
price.
shit like that was gonna
If you
come out.
watch this entire video, you already know you are the kind of player who takes this series.
What's up, family? Donald Trump, your president, says that Russia fears. Donald Trump said that Vladimir Putin fears the United States, and he has no fear of Europe, arguing that NATO's strength comes from the U.S. military. Yeah, man, he said Putin fears us. He fears the United States of America and the military that we built. Because NATO is us. You can ask Putin. Putin fears us. He doesn't fear. He has no fear of Europe whatsoever. He fears the United States of America and the military that was built by me in the first term. Yeah. President. See, man, it to be ridiculous to know that Russia does not fear the United States of America. Russia has helped kill U.S. servicemen. That's how Putin responded. As he said, Russia was afraid. Russia is over there helping Iran kill U.S. service members. That's his response. See, Stalin said that the smartest person is usually the scariest. They're the ones who are afraid. There's always bragging, always talking about his military might. You know, the U.S. this, the U.S. that, will do this, and I will do this, and we'll woo. Always running their mouth. Quietly, mind his business, building up his country, building up his military, not once bragging. Let me tell you something, family. If Russia was indeed afraid of the United States would have already made a play on Russia. They would have already tried to overthrow its government because the United States has been having people in Russia for decades. They would never try to run that little regime change play. And you know why? Because Russia worked up the ass. Also, if Russia was so afraid of the United States, why are they still in Ukraine? Hey, okay, say, well, you know, they're all working together, you know, like Trump really is a double agent, you know, U.S. really playing this double agent thing. They're over here, they're cool with Ukraine, they're over here, they're cool with Russia, but they really don't want to care what happens to Ukraine. They really want Russia to crush Ukraine so they can go in there and divvy up the land and stuff their pockets. But Russia ain't having that. Russia ain't letting the United States in their backyard like that. The U.S. ain't got a shot. They ain't got a scared of. I'm gonna stick at this fight. You know what? I would absolutely pay top dollar to see them fight, and I'm going Putin. I think Putin is smaller than him. I think Putin is in shape. I think. I really can't fight. I know for a fact he can't fight. Because he's one of the type of dudes, he reminds you of one of the type of dudes who ain't never had to fight. You know, he's always had money. He come from money. You know, his daddy, mama had money, right? So he ain't never really had to fight. You know, he fights around the trouble by spending money, you know, and buying his friends. That's why you ain't got one person on the planet who's ever spending $1,000 on friends, right? And he say, Donald Trump not crazy. Donald Trump's just a little bit brag, want to kiss the butt, all that kind of stuff. But you never heard anybody say that Donald Trump is my friend. Never. Look, you need to be out here. Were you fired from your job? What's good, YouTube? It's your boy. This is great. This is what good poker looks like. I watched over a dozen hours of poker, and every player, even the pros, made the same critical mistake, and they had no idea. I went back through old episodes of Poker Out Loud, a show where players literally think out loud during real hands. And after coaching over 700 students, I realized most of them were making the same mistake before they came to us. If you're anything like they were, it's popping up in almost every hand you play, and it could be costing you a small fortune. So I did what any very reasonable, normal person would do. I put together a bingo card. I call it Bad Thoughts Bingo. 16 squares. We're going to listen to their thought processes, play bingo, and I'm going to break down the one mistake to rule them all, plus 15 more. By the end, you'll see what this mistake is and how it can spiral out of control during hands. You'll spot where you're making it in your own game, and I'll show you what you should be thinking about in every hand instead. Let's jump in. Have an easy open here. Go. 30. Yeah, I mean, this is fine enough. It's just one thing to add quickly to Trevor's thought process here. I would always want to be thinking about who is behind me, who's on the button. Is this player going to be 3-betting a lot? And then also, who are in the blinds, right? This is really going to determine our open strategy in the cutoff. If there are weak players in the blinds and we have a skill edge over them and they're calling too wide, right, we're going to be able to open just much wider from the cutoff than equilibrium. So that's one question that I always want to take into account. All right. I think we're just going to continue the theme of 3-betting. This hand should probably do pretty well against the cutoff opening range. So, although it does suck that we are in the small blind, we're just going to keep up the aggression that we have so far. Seems like it's been working okay. Just do 4x to 120. The one thing I want to point out here, I agree with Rampage's decision to 3-bet. I think this is a slam dunk 3-bet versus a cutoff open. But the one thing I'd be thinking about here is, what is the cutoff's opening range, right? Is this guy opening wider than equilibrium? Is he opening tighter? How deep are we? What is the effective stack? Who is behind us in the big blind? These are some of the questions I'd be asking. You'll notice Rampage here made it more about his own story, right? I'm going to continue the theme of the night, instead of asking what I would consider to be more of the relevant questions here. So we come to the same answer, but I don't necessarily love the process of getting there. Going to our Bad Thoughts bingo card here, a little bit of meta game here. It sounds like, I've done this. I'm continuing the theme of the night. 2020. I can go a couple different ways here. I can either flat or 4-bet. Or you could fold. I'm going to mix in a 4-bet here just because I feel like it's getting towards the end of the night and it's spicy. All right, so I don't really know what this. I feel like this is the thoughts that go through most live players' heads in hands. Like I feel like it. I don't like this guy's face. It's spicy. It feels good. First question I'm asking from Trevor's perspective: what is my opponent's range? Right? Maybe Rampage is just playing a 3-bet or fold strategy, which means maybe he's 3-betting at an appropriate frequency. Next question I'm asking: what is the stack depth? How many big blinds effective are we here? Because that's going to inform our strategy, right? How deep are we, and what is our opponent's range? Those are the first questions I want to be asking here. Next question: how is my opponent going to respond to 4-bets? Is he going to call too much? Is he going to 5-bet too much? Is he going to fold too much? If we think our opponent is going to call quite a bit, like if they're going to be very call happy and not believe us from the small blind here, we probably want to go linear. We just want to 4-bet like good hands, like tens, jacks, queens, ace, queen suited, king, queen suited, these type of hands, etc. However, since our opponent is out of position, usually when our opponents are out of position, they get a little bit less sticky. I'm not sure about Rampage in particular. If you think our opponent's going to be 5-bet jamming a lot or folding a lot because they don't want to play a 4-bet pot deep out of position, in that case, I like going with a polarized strategy. Polarized strategy would just be 4-betting our very best hands like aces, kings, ace, king suited, and then maybe bottom of range, which this hand may fall into it. A hand like queen 8 suited, a hand like king 7 suited, maybe a hand like ace 3. No Cato. Cato considered all the options, did not consider 4-betting, didn't really even consider flatting, and I would almost give this no thoughts, right? Nothing really going on except like I'm going to 4-bet because it's the end of the night. 25. And this is the issue that I don't run into when I play my normal 1-3, 2-5s, but we run into it. Wow, he's come a long way, huh? 1-3 and 2-5. Now he's playing the nosebleeds, eh? With the 4-bet, we're kind of handcuffed, especially out of position, to fold our pretty marginable. Marginable? Is that a word? Marginable. I like it. It's marginable. I mean, this just plays pretty horribly post. So, and out of position, there's just no reason for us to continue, but, just got caught 3-betting late this time. Open. I mean, seems fine. Landon's a strong player, but like I at least want to consider like who's in the blinds. Possibly, like we can just take a second to consider who's in the blinds. I know this is a slam dunk open on the button in a 2-blind game, but let's just at least ask the question, right? We're gonna go with no thoughts. I don't want to penalize him too hard for this one because I may just do the same thing here, to be completely honest. But we gotta hold Landon to the same standard of everybody else here. I feel like Landon on the button here should be opening fairly wide. Good thought. Considering Landon's range. But in the small blind, we'll just defend and see a flop. It's pretty playable. 3-bet probably makes more sense, but flatting is fine, I think. Why do we think this? Why do we think? So I want to at least like walk through like what happens if we 3-bet, what happens if we flat, like who's behind us? First of all, like is Landon opening too wide? What's going on here that he didn't want to 3-bet this hand? He said 3-bet makes more sense, but I'm probably going to flat here. To me, guys, this is maybe just a little bit of fear creeping in, right? Like I don't want to play a pot out of position against a good player, a bloated pot out of position, so I'm just going to call here and keep the pot small. I'm just going to check here. Okay, cool. This spot is going to have a lot of small pairs and suited cards. If you look at the suits of our hand, we don't block him from having a hand like 6-7 suited or a hand like ace-7 suited. However, in this spot, I think that he would 3-bet both of those hands, button versus small blind. So we have a nice spot to bet small with our range on this paired board, and probably just fold check raise because we have a lot better hands to continue with, hands that have backdoors, hands that have straight draws, and over pairs, and then obviously trips and 4x. So here we're just going to bet really small, it's about 7 in the pot, so we're just going to go 25. And expect to win a good bit of time, but if he does win, we're just gonna find a fold. Pretty damn good, guys. I don't really have much to add here. I love how he focused so much on Rampage's range, right? He really starts off with like, what is Rampage's range when he flats in the small blind to a button open? Really dialed there. I know he's more of a theory guy, but especially in like a super wide versus wide config, I'm not sure my second thought here would be like, we don't block him having 6-7 suited. It's true, but like when we're playing in like a wide versus wide single raise pot and maybe flatting like 20% of hands here from the small blind, I'm just not sure how relevant it is. But I mean, overall, like I'm nitpicking here. Really like how Landon was focusing on Ethan's range before even thinking about his own hand. All right, this is where I'm not really too familiar, but with king high on this board, I feel like a lot of the times should be good here. Huh? Definitely have more 7s in range. Huh? Let's just see if we can try to run the fold. I mean, I feel like if I call here, it kind of just opens myself to play pot out of position and kind of, I don't know, I feel like raising here. There's not a ton of merit to raising. Well, we could get him to fold a hand like a6. Because I feel like on a rainbow board, Trips are definitely more likely to slow play, but I mean, I just have more of them, so.
What is how we gotta go into the beautiful mind here. Where's our beautiful mind? There we go. And like, notice how focused he is on like his own hand and his own range. Like, I have more of this, I have more of that. My hand is this, and we're 30 seconds in here, and we haven't even talked about Landon's range, right? Maybe relevant to talk about Landon's range. Like, he opened on the button. He's super wide. If he's just range betting here, how many auto folds is he gonna have? Right? Maybe a relevant thing to start thinking about.
I'm trying to talk myself out of raising, or maybe even out of calling. I'm not entirely sure, but we're kind of thinking King High might be good. So we'll float one and see a turn.
Right, so like, what's the plan here? Like, the King High may be good, right? It may be good. Like, but if King High is good, do you think a competent player like Landon is just going to give up on the turn if he can't beat King High? Like, what? I don't really understand the process here.
Okay. Ace high here. We have just enough showdown versus loose offsuit broadways that float, basically trying to hit a pair. And then he might have some backdoor flush draw hands that he's going to try to realize his equity with for as cheap as possible and not really play a check raise. And it makes sense just because he's sure he has some 7x and some 4x as well for like some small suited stuff. But I also just have hands like that in full, where I also just have over pairs and very easy continues. So in this spot, I'm going to check with my showdown, and then depending on what the river is, we might be able to find a bluff. I would check some of my flush draws here too, just in case if the spade does appear, I do actually have some strong hands as well. That's why you can't just always bet your flush draws on the turn. And with ace high, I just have enough showdown to check down if he checks the river as well.
I thought we started off really, really strong here. Again, like, super focused on Ethan's range. At the end, I think we're doing a little bit of showing off here. Like, I'm going to check some flush draws here as well, so I have some flush draws getting to the right. Sure, Landon. If you're playing against a top tier online guy, you probably want to check back some flush draws here. Correct. So you have some flushes on the river when the turn goes check, check. Sure. But we've heard at this point early on in his poker career, I'm sure he's much improved at this point, right? Early on in his poker, we're hearing Rampage's thought process here. Do we really think this is the guy we need to be protecting our check back range against? But overall, like, really, really solid thoughts from Landon here.
So obviously we see probably the best turn card we can ask for, and him checking back gives us a lot of information where we're probably good here, but given this board, if we're betting, like, I don't even know what I get called by, like, eights are going to have to fold.
Well, why? Why would ace have to fold?
And it just seems fairly unlikely that we're, on the turn at least, that we were behind. So, I don't know. We're going to give him a chance to bluff at it because I don't think we get much value if we were to bet. And just bluff catch pretty much.
This is it, guys. This is it. We're going to go back to our bad thoughts bingo. And again, we already have it selected. We're going to select it again. Just really focused on our own hand and range. And this is it, guys. This is the mistake I see time and time again. So many players just get caught up. They think about their own hand, what the board brought in, what we have, where we're at in our range, right? And we don't even think about, we don't even spend a second thinking about what Landon has. And also, no Cato, no consider all the options here at all. No ranging, right? We're not doing any of this. What I'd be thinking here in Ethan's spot is, what is Landon's range when he opens the button, c-bets the flop, and checks back the turn? And I want to be able to carry this thread. I want to start doing this on the flop. All right, he opened on the button. He is wide. He may just be c-betting range here. Now he checks back the turn. So what does that mean when he checks back the turn? Well, most likely, he probably has some type of hand that's showdown value, right? If he had a bluff here, if he had a hand that was king high or worse, he'd probably just keep barreling here at a relatively high frequency, right? If he had some type of draw, he'd probably just keep barreling. If he had a very strong hand, he'd probably just keep betting for value. So what does he have when he checks back quite a bit? It's going to be showdown value. So now that we have Landon's range, what happens if we come out and bet here? What does showdown value do? Well,
if we choose a reasonable size, showdown value may bluff catch, right? Small pot, showdown value may have checked back the turn to bluff catch the river. What happens if we check here? Well, what's showdown value going to do? Showdown value probably isn't going to bluff, and what does a lot of Landon's air do on the turn? It just bets, so he doesn't have a lot of air. So if we check, this is just going to go check, check, a whole hell of a lot. See what happens when we start thinking about our opponent instead of thinking about ourselves. Yeah, we just have enough showdown with our hand to check back, and we're going to win versus some worse stuff. We're going to chop with some other ace highs, and I expect that most of the time we're probably going to lose to a small pair. But our hand's too good to bluff. We also have really bad properties of bluff with holding ace of spades, so we're going to check back. This seems fine. I think it's, again, a little fancy for the player he's playing this pot against. I'm not saying Rampage is a huge fish now, but like at this point in time, you guys can you see what's going on. I think Landon just maybe a little fancy here, but I thought Landon's thought process overall pretty solid. If you're noticing some of these same patterns in your game, focused way too much on your own hand and range, not considering all of the options. A lot of poker training out there, it's really centered on us. It puts us as the hero of the story. Everything is about our hand, our range, how we're perceived. But the truth is, in my opinion, when we're at the table, the story isn't about us. It's about our opponents. What mistakes are they making? Because the mistakes our opponents are making are going to inform our strategy. And if we see our opponent making mistake A, B, and C, well, we can do X, Y, and Z and start exploiting the crap out of them. And that's what our 5-day base camp shows you how to do. It's not just more study. How do I play this hand? How do I play my range in a vacuum? No, it's, hey, if my opponent is making these mistakes, how do I go win the most amount of money against this particular opponent? How do I actually exploit them? And I think what makes base camp so different is most poker training is akin to an NBA player trying to go on YouTube to practice their hezi or their step back. The passive learning, watching something else, just isn't going to be what an NBA player needs to get to the level where they can actually put it into practice. Same thing for poker players. We want to actually put you in the hot seat. We want to actually make this active learning instead of passive learning, where we are going to drill your thought process just like this. We're going to drill your thought process out loud, just like they did on Poker Out Loud. The only difference is you're going to have us in your ear, giving you feedback in real time, helping you hone this thought process. You feel much more confident about all of these scattered thoughts going through your brain. This sounds all appealing. Check out our 5-day base camp.
Alright, once again, we're on the button, probably going to be opening this. Seems a little wide, but we should be able to play in position just fine. Once again, I'm expecting a 3-bet, and then we'll cross that river when we get there.
Well, I mean, let's just ask. Again, guys, I'd really like to get in the habit of asking, like, what is the stack depth? Who are the players in the blinds? Do we have a skill edge? Are they more likely or less likely to 3-bet when we open, right? Just go through the checklist. Ask the questions.
Definitely sensing some frustration out of Ethan right now. He's definitely had a rough go of it. And while I do like this hand, button versus big blind as a 3-bet, might be kind of nice to flat here and under up our hand and play post flop with Ethan.
Check the like button for this game.
Probably better to raise, but we're gonna have some fun and play post with Ethan.
I really like how Johnny is dialed in on what is Ethan doing, what is Rampage doing on the button, right? This guy's opening wide. And I think the one connection that, maybe Johnny was thinking about, but he didn't really get to during this thought process is, like, this guy's frustrated, right? He said this guy's frustrated. So he's probably going to be calling 3-bets wide. So, like, maybe we just want to go, like, really, really linear here. Would rather choose a hand like ace-9, ace-10 suited, a hand like queen-jack suited, hands that are just a little bit better than ace-4 suited to throw into the 3-bet range, right? Because if Ethan is holding a hand like ace-8, ace-7 suited, it makes a lot more sense to 3-bet a linear range, a hand like ace-10, ace-9 suited, where we can pip him. He's not folding a hand like queen-9 suited. It makes a lot more sense to 3-bet a hand like queen-jack, queen-10 suited. So I really like Johnny's thought process here. You can hear him kind of, he's almost there, like why he wants to probably 3-bet a little bit more linear than what the charts say you're supposed to do in this spot. But I like how he's thinking here, really focusing on his opponent instead of himself.
Seeing a lot of paired boards, and
Guys, we got like 30, 45 seconds to make a decision before people start getting pissed off at us. Seeing a lot of paired boards is probably not the first thought we want to have. I think we have something for this. We have something. We still haven't gotten bingo. Maybe this will be the first hand we get bingo. This brings in seeing a lot of paired boards. Like, okay, there we go. This seems relevant.
Queen high here. I feel like sometimes I don't really know if Johnny's going to be 3-betting. I'm just going to assume Johnny's going to be 3-betting a lot of these sexes when it's big blind versus button. So I feel like effectively sometimes I can serve this queen high holding just like ace high and play it almost exactly as ace high, I guess.
Excuse me? There we go again. Beautiful mind.
Kind of making this up as I go, but
really,
we're going to once again experiment and bet a pretty small bet on the flop here. Just kind of put pressure on hands less than mine to maybe make a call or just see what happens. So, there's 16. 15 again works. Let's see what happens.
I'm gonna put pressure on hands worse than his to make a call. So like he's value bet. I don't really understand what's going on. We're focused on our own hand. He did do a little range. Johnny maybe 3-betting some ace high. Okay. My thoughts in Ethan's spot, pretty simple here. This is a wide versus wide configuration. Johnny is probably continuing quite wide to a 3x open from the big blind. Range bets are very hard to play against. Even strong players like Johnny probably are not going to be playing optimally against a small range bet on this board, especially if they don't know you're range betting, right? They just have to find a shit ton of check raises. They're probably not going to find enough check raises. They have a wide range. We benefit from them just folding a bunch of equity on this board. Wouldn't even mind if our opponent just folds a hand like 10-9 here. We get our opponent to fold some better hands, enough equity against us. Like, just range bet here. Even a good player isn't going to find enough check raises with the bluffs. And let's start up that thought process on the turn if we have to get there.
Definitely one of those flops where not much change between pre-flop and post-flop. I had the best hand pre-flop, but I likely had the best hand post-flop. Obviously, my specific hand isn't great for the board. Probably can't call down the streets, but for sure calling one, especially for $15, possibly calling two, depending on what he does on the turn. But just take it one street at a time. Easy call here.
This seems fine. Would like to see a little more focus on just a tad. Hey, wide versus wide spot. If you see betting range here, he just has a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to be ahead. I think the fact that Johnny is continuing with a weak ace high, no backdoor, reflects that. But we're just like the reflected in thought process.
I think when he calls this, I feel like now we're just trying to figure out if queen high has enough showdown to check back or bluff at this and continue barreling on the turn.
Enough showdown against what? Queen high? Queen high has enough showdown? I mean, sure, I guess you beat like a jack high, 10 high flush draw here, but not really a lot of showdown with the old queen 8 here in this spot.
Another day, and just trying to figure out how light he's calling me and see if there's no showdown in queen high. I think that's what we're going to do and just check back. I've realized I don't really do much checking when I'm in position, so this seems like a good time to mix in a check and see what happens on the river.
Why does this seem like a good time to mix in a check? Because you don't do much checking. It seems like a good time to. I don't really understand the line of thought. No, considering all the options, didn't really consider like what would happen if we just keep barreling here. We're not really carrying that thread of what is Johnny's range here when he calls on the flop. In fact, there's almost no ranging here. We're getting close to a bingo, guys. My thoughts in Rampage's spot here would simply be, okay, we see bet small on the flop. He just called some, or at least a good portion of a 6x may raise. We don't really have much showdown value here with queen high. He's probably floating the flop relatively wide. And I think there's a few options here on the turn. What happens if we go small? Would our opponent call with a hand like pocket 5s, pocket 4s here if we go small? Maybe. I'm not sure. Those hands and ace highs may just start folding on this turn, even if we choose a small size. So it could be reasonable. Obviously, king X is never folding. If he does have a wrapped trips here, those hands are never folding. May split in a check raise also now if we go small again. What happens if we go large? Well, obviously pocket 5s, pocket 4s, pocket 3s, this stuff is just folding. The question I would be asking here is, are we deep enough, and is Johnny the type of guy that can get a hand like king 9 or king 10 to fold by the river? Because that is the crux here on the turn that I would start to be thinking about. Like, if we overbet this turn, if say we bet
200, 250 on this turn. And a hand like King X calls. Pot's going to be about 600. We're going